The Journey of a Billionaire CEO, Stories of a Rich Man's Rise to Success. In the glimmering shadow of the skyline, where the wealthy made their lives look effortless, Sarah had learned to dodge hardship like a pro. Dust and grit clung to her jeans as she navigated the rough outskirts of her city, a place drenched in kind-hearted survival yet aching with despair. The high-rise towers, slick and shining, told stories of wealth while she watched from cracked sidewalks. Each day felt like a battle against an enemy she couldn't name, armed only with determination and will. Sarah had a reputation. She was tough, resilient, and unwilling to back down, always pushing through as the rich sipped their cocktails and laughed in extravagant rooftop gardens. And yet, she felt a pang of bitterness each time she caught a glimpse of their lives, a world so far removed from hers, where luxury SUVs glided past, and more than just money bought happiness. Then came that fateful day. The sun hung low, casting golden light over their world when all hell broke loose. She was a few blocks from the nearest grocery store when she saw it. A luxury SUV pulled over, the driver, a man in an expensive suit, looking smug. Before she'd even realized what was happening, masked figures spilled out from the shadows, brandishing weapons with gleaming eyes set on destruction. It was chaos, shouting mingling with the blaring horn of the SUV, a cacophony that sent her heart racing. Without thinking, Sarah charged forward. Maybe she was foolish, or maybe she just couldn't stand by and watch another person suffer. With a swift move, she snatched a metal trash can lid, using it as a makeshift shield, and charged at the robbers. They turned, surprise on their faces, just as she swung the lid, catching one off guard. The shatter of glass echoed in her ears as the SUV's window exploded into 1,000 pieces. Ethan, the billionaire inside, looked horrified but grateful. As they fled down dark alleyways, adrenaline surged. He stammered, trying to thank her, but the words bounced off her like rain off her roof. She caught flashes of the opulence he took for granted, the expensive watch, the tailored suit, the untouched life behind his privilege. To her, he was just another symbol of the elite, blind to her struggle. But as they navigated through the tangled streets, secrets would come tumbling out. She found out his business had roots in the poverty she lived every day, the very dreams of families like hers crushed beneath corporate greed. It made her feel sick. The closer they got to escaping, the more tangled the web became, leading them to darker truths. Ethan was not just a wealthy CEO. He was entwined in a conspiracy that linked directly to her own past. Each moment spent with him forced her to confront feelings she'd much rather ignore: resentment, anger, and a longing for understanding. Would she seek vengeance for the pain his business had caused? Or would she try to find a way toward justice? Just when her resolve felt most concrete, a shock would surface, plunging their lives deeper into chaos. Shadows loomed, figures grew nearer, and they began to realize they were not only fighting for their lives, but for the truth against Ethan's ruthless business partner, a man determined to reclaim control at all costs. So much was at stake as they pressed forward. Would they cling to the shadows of their pasts, or step into a new light, a new bond forged in the fire of danger and revelation? Hey, before we continue with this incredible story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without notice. Just take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content coming up. And since you're here, smash that like button because it really helps me with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who is part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. As Sarah and Ethan twisted through the labyrinth of shadows, the chaos from moments earlier still echoed in their ears. They were breathing hard, hearts racing, eyes scanning for any sign of the danger that had pursued them. Just as they turned a corner, a loud crash erupted. A dumpster tipped over, and graffiti-splashed walls loomed like menacing giants. Sarah's heart sank. They had to keep moving. Just a little further, Ethan urged, his voice taut with fear. Sarah felt a flicker of hope, but it was fragile. She couldn't shake the anger brewing inside her. All she could think was how much Ethan represented everything wrong with the world she lived in. "Why did you get involved in that mess? You didn't have to be a part of it," she snapped, her voice raw with frustration. He opened his mouth to respond, but she cut him off. "Your company's tearing apart families like mine." Ethan's face tightened at her words, tension growing between them. But before he could reply, their frantic escape came to an abrupt halt. A figure emerged from the shadowed alley, blocking their path, a menacing silhouette outlined against the dim light. Fear gripped Sarah as she instinctively stepped back, her mind racing for a way out. "Not so fast," the figure snarled, stepping into view, revealing a face she recognized all too well. It was Marcus, the ruthless partner of Ethan's company, a man she had only seen on TV, always promoting their latest venture. But now, his familiar features twisted into a threatening grin, sharp and predatory. "What a surprise to see you, Ethan," Marcus drawled, his voice like oil. "You sure know how to pick a thrilling night out." Ethan's expression shifted, fear mixed with incredulity. "What are you doing here, Marcus?" Behind the tough facade Sarah had always worn, confusion started to swell. What was he doing here? Why had he come for them? "No need to play coy," Marcus continued smoothly, flicking his gaze to Sarah. "I guess you're a bit out of your depth here, aren't you? This little escapade isn't good for business." Suddenly the atmosphere thickened. Sarah felt something crackle in the air, a tension that made her stomach churn. She took a step back as Marcus's eyes glinted with something dark. "You think you understand the game? The world is not black and white, princess," he said with a sneer. Just then, without warning, a loud bang erupted behind them. Sarah instinctively turned, adrenaline flooding her veins. The sound of a gunshot shattered the night, a bullet narrowly missing them and ricocheting off the wall with a deafening crash. "Run!" Ethan shouted, grabbing Sarah's arm, but she was frozen, staring wide-eyed at Marcus. He hadn't flinched, his cool confidence intact. Instead, he smoked at the chaos unfolding, as if this were all part of the plan. Adrenaline surged through Sarah. As they broke into a sprint, but doubt gnawed at her mind. Marcus was here. This wasn't just a random encounter. They were caught in a web that reached back to her life, the poverty, the hurt. Just as they turned to flee, another shocking revelation hit her like a punch to the gut. "Ethan, why is he here? What do you know about this?" she cried, her voice trembling, fear and fury colliding. Ethan's jaw tightened, his eyes darkening. "There's a lot more to me than you know. My company's not what you think. His words hung in the air, heavy and thick. Something in his tone made her heart skip. What had he done? What was hidden beneath that polished surface? Before she could grasp it, another shot rang out. This one was louder, closer. Time froze. In that moment, Sarah sensed a shift, a crack in everything she thought she understood about Ethan, about the life she fought so hard to escape. What secrets lay buried beneath the layers of wealth he wore like armor? And as they raced through the dark, a new question loomed larger than the danger behind them. Had she just stepped into a trap of her own making? Just as their hearts raced, another shot rang out, a deafening crack that shattered the night. Time froze. Sarah looked at Ethan, his face a storm of fear and determination. Her instincts kicked in, and they bolted forward, but doubts clouded her mind. Marcus was too close, too dangerous. "Ethan," she shouted, scrambling to keep pace. "Why is he after us? What does he know?" "Just keep running," he urged, his voice taut. They sprinted down the narrow alley, the chaos behind them hazy but ever-present. The walls seemed to close in, nightly shadows shifting like living things. "I won't be your pawn," she shot back, anger mingling with fear. She couldn't shake the image of Marcus grinning at her, that oily smile like a knife digging deeper. "Sarah, listen." But before he could finish, another echo of gunfire jolted through the air. The bullet whizzed past them, a cold whisper of death, too close for comfort. Panic surged as they ducked behind a dumpster, heartbeats harmonizing in their ears. Marcus stepped forward, his silhouette cutting against the pale moonlight. "You think you can just run away?" he taunted, the smoothness of his voice a cruel mockery. "You're in over your heads. This isn't just a game." Then, everything exploded. A blinding flash erupted from a nearby storefront. A car, parked on the street, erupted into flames. The heat washed over them like a tidal wave, the blast sending debris flying. "Get down!" Ethan yelled, pulling Sarah close. Smoke engulfed them, bitter and choking. As they hit the pavement, everything felt surreal, like they were trapped in a nightmare. But then, through the haze, Sarah caught sight of a figure stumbling from the wreckage, an unknown casualty, a man wearing a hoodie, face smudged with soot. Her breath caught. Without thinking, she darted toward him. "Are you okay? What happened?" As she reached out, the man looked up, eyes wide with startling recognition. "Sarah? Do I know you?" she stammered, confusion ripping through her. He ripped off his hood, revealing a familiar face. Jace, her childhood friend, someone she hadn't seen in years. He was supposed to be gone, disappeared into the shadows of her past. "I thought you were dead." "Things change," he shouted, pulling her closer. "You need to get out of here." "Jace, what are you doing here?" Her voice was strained, gaining a desperate edge. He glanced fearfully at Marcus, who was already closing in, that smirk wider than ever. "We don't have time. You've stumbled into something bigger than you can imagine." Ethan scrambled up, eyes darting between Sarah and Jace. "What do you mean? What's going on?" "Ethan, shut up," she snapped, feeling their lives slipping further from her grasp. Panic mixed with rage. Marcus laughed, the sound echoing mockingly. "Ah, the past is catching up with us, isn't it? Tell her everything, Jace. How about starting with who your father really is?" Sarah's heart plummeted. Dread washed over her, a cold wave of terror. "What?" she whispered, eyes flitting between the two men. "Sarah," Jace faltered, the weight of his words heavy in the air. "Your father was involved. The deals, the—" "Stop!" she shouted, blood roaring in her ears. It couldn't be true. Her father? The man who had worked 2 jobs to keep them afloat? How could he be tied to Marcus's world? Suddenly, a sharp pain sliced through her thoughts. Another gunshot, more chaos enveloping them. Their lives had become a tangled web. Nothing was as it seemed. Just as she grasped the enormity of it all, another spark ignited in the air, leading them into deeper darkness. "Sarah, we have to move," Ethan yelled, pulling her away from the wreck. But disoriented by the revelations, she felt a weight pressing down, a knot tightening around her heart. Who was this man who claimed to know her? And what would it mean if everything she believed about her father was a lie? As they stumbled into the night, everything felt precarious, the ground shifting beneath her feet. In that moment, one question loomed above all else. Had she been fighting the wrong enemies all along? Just as Sarah pulled back, struggling to process Jace's words, a blinding light illuminated the alley. A fiery glow erupted from the storefront they had just passed. The flames, licking at the air and casting flickering shadows that danced wildly around them. Everything felt surreal for a second, like they had been thrown into a movie. "Run!" Ethan shouted, yanking on Sarah's arm again, but she was paralyzed by the weight of Jace's revelation. Her childhood memories cracked open like fragile porcelain. Everything she thought she knew shattered. "Sarah, focus." Jace's voice sliced through her fog. "We don't have time for this. We have to escape." But just as she was about to move, another deafening blast ripped through the air. The sound crashed against her, rattling her bones. A glass door shattered, shrapnel flying in every direction. Ethan flung his body over hers, shielding her from the shower of dangerous fragments. In that moment, something else cracked inside her. Adrenaline spilled out, mixing with confusion. "Why didn't you tell me?" Her voice trembled, filled with betrayal. "I deserve to know." Not now, Jace shouted, his eyes wide with fear. I was protecting you, but we can talk later. If we survive this. Around them, chaos erupted. People poured onto the street, faces twisted in horror, screaming in shock as they witnessed the events unfolding. Sarah felt the heat of the flames, a brute force pushing her back. Panic turned the air thick and suffocating. Get out of here. Marcus's voice slithered through the noise, smugness dripping from his every word. You've made a mistake getting involved with him. He aimed a finger at Ethan, and now it's time to pay the price. Sarah's heart raced. How did Marcus know about Jace? Why was he suddenly making this personal? Shut up, she yelled back, defiance surging through her. But doubt knotted within. What did Marcus know? What was going on behind the curtain of lies? Ethan glanced at Jace, his expression hardening. You said my father was involved. What did you mean by that? Now is not the time, Jace shot back. But the doubt was there, the flicker in his eyes that told Sarah this was far from over. Just then, through the crowd, she saw a familiar face emerge. A flash of movement caught her eye. No, it couldn't be. Her heart sank as the figure stepped closer. A slick grin splitting his face. David, her ex-boyfriend. He was supposed to be miles away, lost in his own world, but here he was, appearing like a specter from her past. What are you doing here? She gasped, panic coursing through her. He sauntered towards them, acting like he belonged in this chaos. Looks like you've gotten yourself into some deep trouble, huh? Get away from us, she snapped, instinctively moving closer to Ethan and Jace. But David merely chuckled, dark amusement in his eyes. You don't understand, do you? You're all players in a game way bigger than any of you. Game? Jace spat, fists clenched. What are you talking about? The flames flickered higher, and for a second, the world fell silent around them. David's expression shifted, more serious now, like he was about to reveal everything. Your father's deals extend far beyond your little corner of the world, Sarah. You think this is just about money? And greed? No, it's about control, power, and now you're in the middle of it. An icy wave swept over her. Everything she had built, her struggles, her defiance, now felt hollow. Was all of it a lie? Stepping back, she felt the wall behind her. What are you saying? Suddenly, the ground beneath them shook as the building at the end of the street collapsed inwards, a massive surge of dust and debris filling the air. In the chaos, David flashed a harsh smile, his eyes glittering with something dangerous. Welcome to the family business, Sarah. I hope you enjoy the ride. With that, he slipped into the shadows, leaving them all stranded in confusion, dread clinging tightly to Sarah's throat. Who could she trust now? As the smoke curled around her, wrapping her in darkness, one haunting thought echoed in her mind. Had she been chasing the wrong people all along? The truth felt closer yet more distant than ever, and as urgency propelled them to move, it remained a flickering secret lurking just beyond her grasp, a mystery waiting to unfold. Just as Sarah culled back, struggling to process Jace's words, a blinding light illuminated the alley. A fiery glow erupted from the storefront they had just passed, the flames licking at the air and casting flickering shadows that danced wildly around them. Everything felt surreal for a second, like they had been thrown into a movie. Run, Ethan shouted, yanking on Sarah's arm again, but she was paralyzed by the weight of Jace's revelation. Her childhood memories cracked open like fragile porcelain. Everything she thought she knew shattered. Sarah, focus. Jace's voice sliced through her fog. We don't have time for this. We have to escape. But just as she was about to move, another deafening blast ripped through the air. The sound crashed against her, rattling her bones. A glass door shattered, shrapnel flying in every direction. Ethan flung his body over hers, shielding her from the shower of dangerous fragments. In that moment, something else cracked inside her. Adrenaline spilled out, mixing with confusion. Why didn't you tell me? Her voice trembled, filled with betrayal. I deserve to know. Not now, Jace shouted, his eyes wide with fear. I was protecting you. But we can talk later, if we survive this. Around them, chaos erupted. People poured onto the street, faces twisted in horror, screaming in shock as they witnessed the events unfolding. Sarah felt the heat of the flames, a brute force pushing her back. Panic turned the air thick and suffocating. "Get out of here!" Marcus's voice slithered through the noise, smugness dripping from his every word. "You've made a mistake getting involved with him." He aimed a finger at Ethan, and now it's time to pay the price. Sarah's heart raced. How did Marcus know about Jace? Why was he suddenly making this personal? "Shut up!" she yelled back, defiance surging through her, but doubt knotted within. What did Marcus know? What was going on behind the curtain of lies? Ethan glanced at Jace, his expression hardening. "You said my father was involved. What did you mean by that?" "Now is not the time," Jace shot back, but the doubt was there, the flicker in his eyes that told Sarah this was far from over. Just then, the ground beneath them shook as the building at the end of the street collapsed inward, a massive surge of dust and debris filling the air. In the chaos, David flashed a harsh smile, his eyes glittering with something dangerous. "Welcome to the family business, Sarah. I hope you enjoy the ride." With that, he slipped into the shadows, leaving them all stranded in confusion, dread clinging tightly to Sarah's throat. Who could she trust now? As the smoke curled around her, wrapping her in darkness, one haunting thought echoed in her mind. Had she been chasing the wrong people all along? But then the unthinkable happened. As Sarah strained her eyes against the swirling smoke, searching for any sign of an escape, the flames seemed to shift, a sudden clarity cutting through the haze. From that fire emerged a shape, silhouetted and powerful, walking toward them. It was a woman, tall and fierce, her features sharp and commanding. "Get down," she shouted, her voice cutting through the chaos. Sarah's breath hitched as the woman pulled open her coat, revealing a weapon that glimmered even in the flickering light. "Fiona?" Ethan gasped, recognition dawning on him. The woman, Fiona, raised an eyebrow, new intensity etched on her face. "I've come to collect what's mine, and I see you're all tangled in this mess." Her gaze swept over them, zeroing in on Jace. "Hello, brother." The words hung in the air, like a thunderclap. "Brother?" Jace's eyes widened, a mix of disbelief and confusion washing over his features. "What? No, that can't be true." But Fiona stepped closer, eyes hard as steel. "Oh, it's true. Our father's ties run deeper than you know. You have no idea what you've walked into." Sarah felt the ground shift beneath her. Jace's long-lost sister? A twist like this turned all her thoughts inside out. She struggled to breathe, mind racing. Who was the real enemy here, and how deep did this family betrayal run? Fiona turned her gaze on Sarah, a smirk playing at her lips. "You thought you were fighting for your life, didn't you? But trust me, this is just the beginning. You have a bigger role to play than you can imagine." As the implications simmered in the air, the sound of sirens wailed in the distance, drawing closer. The world was spiraling out of control. And just when she thought she knew who to trust, another layer peeled away, revealing a treacherous truth. "Get ready," Fiona said, the flames dancing in her eyes. "Everything you thought you knew is about to change." And in that moment, as the two worlds collided, Sarah realized how little she truly understood. What game had she stepped into? What future awaited them all? Just as Sarah pulled back, struggling to process Jace's words, a blinding light illuminated the alley. A fiery glow erupted from the storefront they had just passed, the flames licking at the air and casting flickering shadows that danced wildly around them. Everything felt surreal. For a second, like they had been thrown into a movie. "Run," Ethan shouted, yanking on Sarah's arm again, but she was paralyzed by the weight of Jace's revelation. Her childhood memories cracked open like fragile porcelain, everything she thought she knew shattered. "Sarah, focus!" Jace's voice sliced through her fog. "We don't have time for this. We have to escape." But just as she was about to move, another deafening blast ripped through the air. The sound crashed against her, rattling her bones. A glass door shattered, shrapnel flying in every direction. Ethan flung his body over hers, shielding her from the shower of dangerous fragments. In that moment, something else cracked inside her. Adrenaline spilled out, mixing with confusion. "Why didn't you tell me?" Her voice trembled, filled with betrayal. "I deserved to know. Not now," Jace shouted, his eyes wide with fear. "I was protecting you, but we can talk later, if we survive this." Around them, chaos erupted. People poured onto the street, faces twisted in horror, screaming in shock as they witnessed the events unfolding. Sarah felt the heat of the flames, a brute force pushing her back. Panic turned the air thick and suffocating. "Get out of here!" Marcus's voice slithered through the noise, smugness dripping from his every word. "You've made a mistake getting involved with him." He aimed a finger at Ethan. "And now it's time to pay the price." Sarah's heart raced. How did Marcus know about Jace? Why was he suddenly making this personal? "Shut up!" she yelled back, defiance surging through her. But doubt nodded. Within, what did Marcus know? What was going on behind the curtain of lies? Ethan glanced at Jace, his expression hardening. "You said my father was involved. What did you mean by that?" "Now is not the time," Jace shot back. But the doubt was there, the flicker in his eyes that told Sarah this was far from over. Just then, the ground beneath them shook as the building at the end of the street collapsed inward, a massive surge of dust and debris filling the air. In the chaos, David flashed a harsh smile, his eyes glittering with something dangerous. "Welcome to the family business, Sarah. I hope you enjoy the ride." With that, he slipped into the shadows, leaving them all stranded in confusion, dread clinging tightly to Sarah's throat. Who could she trust now? As the smoke curled around her, wrapping her in darkness, one haunting thought echoed in her mind. Had she been chasing the wrong people all along? But then the unthinkable happened. As Sarah strained her eyes against the swirling smoke, searching for any sign of an escape, the flames seemed to shift, a sudden clarity cutting through the haze. From that fire emerged a shape, silhouetted and powerful, walking toward them. It was a woman, tall and fierce, her features sharp and commanding. "Get down!" she shouted, her voice cutting through the chaos. Sarah's breath hitched as the woman pulled open her coat, revealing a weapon that glimmered even in the flickering light. "Fiona?" Ethan gasped, recognition dawning on him. The woman, Fiona, raised an eyebrow, new intensity etched on her face. "I've come to collect what's mine, and I see you're all tangled in this mess." Her gaze swept over them, zeroing in on Jace. "Hello, brother." The words hung in the air like a thunderclap. "Brother?" Jace's eyes widened, a mix of disbelief and confusion washing over his features. "What? No, that can't be true." But Fiona stepped closer, eyes hard as steel. "Oh, it's true. Our father's ties run deeper than you know. You have no idea what you've walked into." Sarah felt the ground shift beneath her. Jace's long-lost sister? A twist like this turned all her thoughts inside out. She struggled to breathe, mind racing. Who was the real enemy here? And how deep did this family betrayal run? Fiona turned her gaze on Sarah, a smirk playing at her lips. "You thought you were fighting for your life, didn't you? But trust me, this is just the beginning. You have a bigger role to play than you can imagine." Just before Sarah could react, movement caught her eye. An unexpected third party materialized from the smoke. A man, clad in black, staggered forward, his expression wild, a gun clutched tightly in his hand. "Get down!" he shouted. But it was too late. A shot rang out, echoing through the air, not toward them, toward Fiona. The bullet struck her in the shoulder, sending her tumbling backward as chaos erupted. "No!" Ethan yelled, rushing to her side. But as Fiona fell, the man shifted, grinning, a chilling recognition flashing in his eyes. He looked right at Sarah, that same glint of familiarity dawning. "Hello, Sarah. You don't remember me, do you?" The world spun around her, confusion swirling like the smoke. "What? Who are you?" And then it hit her like a brick. A childhood memory. A man with a cruel grin from a time before. a connection she never wanted to acknowledge, yet undeniable. "You left me behind," he sneered, leveling the gun toward Ethan. "And now it's time you all pay for your father's sins." In an instant, everything changed again. Allies became enemies, secrets surfaced, and Sarah realized she was in the middle of a storm she had never seen coming. As her heart raced, she wondered, could she trust Jace? Or was he another pawn in a twisted game? "What are you gonna do?" she was crashing over her. Would they all make it out alive? And deep down, a shocking realization gnawed at her. Maybe the person she had to confront most was herself. Just as Sarah pulled back, struggling to process Jace's words, a blinding light illuminated the alley. A fiery glow erupted from the storefront they had just passed, flames licking at the air and casting flickering shadows that danced wildly around them. Everything felt surreal for a second, like they had been thrown into a movie. "Run!" Ethan shouted, yanking on Sarah's arm again, but she was paralyzed by the weight of Jace's revelation. Her childhood memories cracked open like fragile porcelain. Everything she thought she knew shattered. "Sarah, focus." Jace's voice sliced through her fog. "We don't have time for this. We have to." Escape. But just as she was about to move, another deafening blast ripped through the air. The sound crashed against her, rattling her bones. A glass door shattered, shrapnel flying in every direction. Ethan flung his body over hers, shielding her from the shower of dangerous fragments. In that moment, something else cracked inside her. Adrenaline spilled out, mixing with confusion. "Why didn't you tell me?" Her voice trembled, filled with betrayal. "I deserve to know." "Not now," Jace shouted, his eyes wide with fear. "I was protecting you, but we can talk later, if we survive this." Around them, chaos erupted. People poured onto the street, faces twisted in horror, screaming in shock as they witnessed the events unfolding. Sarah felt the heat of the flames, a brute force pushing her back. Panic turned the air thick and suffocating. "Get out of here." Marcus's voice slithered through the noise, smugness dripping from his every word. "You've made a mistake getting involved with him." He aimed a finger at Ethan, "and now it's time to pay the price." Sarah's heart raced. How did Marcus know about Jace? Why was he suddenly making this personal? "Shut up," she yelled back, defiance surging through her. But doubt knotted within. What did Marcus know? What was going on behind the curtain of lies? Ethan glanced at Jace, his expression hardening. "You said my father was involved. What did you mean by that?" "Now is not the time," Jace shot back. But the doubt was there, the flicker in his eyes that told Sarah this was far from over. "You can trust me," Ethan urged, but his eyes darted around, searching for a way out, never staying on her for long. Just then, the building at the end of the street buckled, a massive surge of dust and debris filling the air. In the chaos, David flashed a harsh smile, his eyes glittering with something dangerous. "Welcome to the family business, Sarah. I hope you enjoy the ride." Before she could respond, the ground shook, throwing her off balance. In the confusion, a loud, tearing sound cut through everything. Sarah squinted through the haze, and then, her world flipped completely. A massive silhouette broke through the smoke, barreling toward them. It was a truck, an enormous beast of metal, careening toward their group, tires screeching against the pavement, everything moving in slow motion. "Get down," Ethan screamed, pulling Sarah to the ground. The truck slammed into the scaffolding, a thunderous crash resonating through the air. Wood and metal splintered, debris raining down. Sarah caught a glimpse of a familiar face through the dust cloud. It was her father, stepping from the driver's seat, face steely and determined. "Dad?" Her voice caught in her throat. "Run, now," he shouted, looking frantic but resolute. What was he doing here, and why was she catching a glimpse of someone she thought was just a memory? Before she could ask, Jace stepped closer, eyes wide with shock. "You? Here? With him?" "I'll explain later. There's no time," he barked, urgency coating every word. "Your father's in this too," David growled, pointing, his anger mixing with disbelief. This was your plan all along. Chaos erupted. Those around them stared, whispers circulating like wildfire. The crowd turned, fearful eyes landing on the man who had been nothing but a ghost. Could he be a player in this life-or-death game too? What sinister connections tied him to Marcus, to Fiona? Adrenaline surged through her veins. This was the moment of truth. "Dad, what have you done?" she demanded, feeling a mix of dread and anger swell inside. But before he could respond, a sudden explosion detonated upon them, a fireball arcing through the air. Everything felt like it was crumbling, blurring the lines between enemy and ally. Heat engulfed them as shadows danced like demons against the streetlights. "Run," Ethan bellowed, scrambling to his feet, tugging at Sarah's arm. Yet, all she could do was stare at her father, the man who had vanished from her life only to appear now, at the center of the storm, a true figure of chaos. Was he part of the very thing she had fought against her whole life? In that moment, as they raced against the flames roaring behind them, one question echoed louder than all the others. Was her father the hero she'd longed for, or the enemy she never expected? The flames roared behind them, wreaking havoc in the streets, as Sarah's heart pounded like a war drum. She stared at her father, the man who had abandoned her, just to return now, wrapped in a storm of chaos. What had he done? "Dad, what have you done?" The words tumbled out, sharp and jagged. "Sarah, listen to me," he shouted, urgency lacing his voice like a spiced edge. "We don't have time for this." "Time for what?" she shot back, fury sparking in her chest. "To explain how you've been living a lie? To tell me why I shouldn't hate you? Just run." He glanced over his shoulder, fear crackling in his eyes as yet another explosion shook the ground. Ethan stepped closer, catching his breath. "Your father's tied to all of this, Sarah. He knows more than he's letting on." But before they could get an answer, a flash of movement broke through the smoke, a tall figure trudging forward through the haze. It was a man dressed in a long trench coat, his eyes piercing, filled with conviction. "You shouldn't have come back, James," he spat, locking eyes with Sarah's father. "It's too late for that," James shot back, his voice trembling. The man chuckled, dark and menacing. "Oh, it is never too late, my dear friend. You've made choices, dangerous ones." Panic set in. Was this guy a friend or another enemy? Fear flickered through her consciousness. She felt the heat of the fire behind them, wrapping around her as she took a step back. Another explosion split the air. Pieces of concrete raining down like a horror show. She barely ducked as a beam crashed nearby. "Dad, who is this?" she managed to gasp, fighting through the haze of confusion. But James didn't answer. Instead, he turned to face the newcomer, pleading in his gaze now. "You promised. You said she would be safe." "Safe? That's adorable," the man scoffed, breaking into a grin. "But everything is a risk, James. Everything, especially when dealing with her." Her heart sank like a stone. What does that mean? Suddenly, another shot rang. Through the chaos of the moment, she barely registered the sound until it was too late. James lurched, hands clutching his side, blood blooming like a dark rose against his shirt. "Dad!" she screamed, the agony ripping through her like a knife. He dropped to his knees, the weight of his world collapsing. "See?" the man taunted, his voice smooth and cruel. "He was always a loose end." "No, no!" Sarah fell to her knees, tears stinging her eyes. Everything shattered. All the years of longing, despair, and anger. Everything she thought she could confront now seemed to melt away in an inferno of loss. Ethan knelt beside her, desperation flooding his features. "Stay with us, James," he urged, pressing a cloth against the wound. "You need to go, both of you." James gasped, his face etched with pain. "Get out while you can." But the man stood tall, a puppet master in control. You don't understand what's at stake, he murmured, mocking the suffering around him. With desperation clawing at her, Sarah turned to Jace, anguish stark on her face. What do we do? Jace's expression shifted from confusion to understanding, a hidden truth igniting deeper in his eyes. Sarah, I think we need to end this. Now. The ground shook again, louder this time, and Sarah's heart leapt into her throat. End. What are you talking about? But before Jace could answer, the man in the trench coat stepped closer, an unsettling smile creeping across his lips. You really don't know, do you? What you are capable of. What your family has hidden. Shut up, she cried, anger hitting a boiling point. No, he said, voice low and dangerous. The truth is standing right in front of you. The real question is, are you ready to accept it? In that moment, the world felt like it shattered all over again. As James gasped for breath and the flames surrounded them, everything she believed about her family, their past, their future, hung in the balance. Would they swallow the secrets or break free? And just like that, a deafening roar surged through the night air. A crack through the darkness, and the unthinkable happened. A helicopter descended from the sky, lights flashing, casting eerie shadows against the walls. All at once, everything shifted. The urgency of their situation accelerated, and as the blade's sound sliced through the chaos, Sarah realized a shocking revelation dawned. Nothing was as it seemed. Choices lay before her, dark and twisted, and deep inside she felt the pulse of truth start to unravel. The helicopter wasn't merely a rescue. There were whispers outside, familiar faces inside. Get in, shouted a voice from above, one that sent chills down her spine. We can take you home. Home? What did that even mean now? And just like that, in the unrelenting chaos, Sarah had to decide, was this her chance to escape, or had she just walked right into a greater trap? The helicopter roared overhead, its blades slicing through the thick, smoky air. Floodlights illuminated the chaos, revealing frightened faces and shadows darting away. For a moment, everything paused as if the world held its breath. Sarah stared, heart pounding in her chest. Get in, a voice called out. It was familiar, yet she couldn't place it. Who are you? She yelled back, her throat tightening. She looked at her father, blood seeping slowly from his wound, a bead of uncertainty creeping into her gut. They didn't have time for games. Trust me, the voice insisted, urgency laced in every syllable. You need to move. Dad, she began, but he shook his head, pain etched on his face. I can't keep you safe much longer, he said, his voice strained. Please, just go. Ethan's hand gripped her arm, pulling her toward the helicopter. We have to leave now, Sarah. But the world was spinning, and it felt as if time rippled like water, dragging her down. No, she shouted, desperation spilling over. I won't leave him. Sarah, Jace exclaimed, eyes wide with panic. This isn't about us anymore. As if to punctuate his words, another explosion rocked the street, sending debris crashing down. A shadow emerged from the rubble, Marcus. He was alive, a twisted grin splitting his face. Ah, the lost sheep returned to the fold, he taunted, stepping closer. Stay back, her father growled, struggling to push himself up. Daddy, Sarah's heart ached, watching him fight against the looming darkness. Get them, Marcus shouted, his voice slicing through the noise. Bring them to me. In that instant, figures emerged from the smoke, masked men, rushing in from all sides, glinting weapons raised high. The chaos exploded again, screams echoing like shards of glass. Sarah's lungs tightened, panic ignited. Run! Ethan shouted, pulling her away from the melee. Jace followed, his grip steady, but her eyes were drawn back to her father, every instinct screaming to stay. Sarah! James's voice came again, weaker now. Desperate, you need to leave now. But before she could move, another flash caught her attention. David slicing through the haze, his eyes fixed on her. Get out of here, he shouted, urgency transforming his smug demeanor. Why should I trust you? She spat, loathing swirling deep inside her. Because, he said, voice dropping low, you don't know the truth. With that, a gun went off, a sharp crack splitting the air. James staggered, gasping. Dad, she screamed, everything shattering again as she sprinted toward him. And then it happened. The helicopter's spotlight swung across the crowd, illuminating the figure in the center, revealing a face that twisted her insides. Mom, Sarah whispered, disbelief choking her voice. There stood Julia, arms crossed, cold eyes watching, an enigma wrapped in dark confidence. Everything she thought she understood plunged deeper into chaos. Welcome to the party, dear, Julia said calmly, her tone chilling. You're just in time to witness the unveiling. What are you talking about? Sarah felt like she was drowning. You were gone, you left me. I left you to protect you, Julia shot back. Icy walls. Building. You don't understand the game I've been playing. Your father is a pawn. Marcus wants your blood, and you're the key. The crowd around them hushed, every breath held tight. A truth so profound it cut deeper than any blade wrapped around them. Sarah's heart raced, her world spiraling. What did that mean? The masked men moved closer, drawing their guns. Julia held up a hand. Not yet. We're not done here, she said, a predator's glint in her eye. Panic surged through her veins like wildfire. Mom, what's going on? More than you can imagine, sweetheart. We're in this together. The chaos raged, shadows enveloping them all. And just like that, everything flipped again, a new thread twisting tightly around her heart. Sarah glanced at Ethan, then Jace, their faces mirroring her confusion. What had she stepped into? A family she thought she knew was a web of deception, manipulation, and danger. Now, shall we play? Julia smiled, a cold, calculating edge, the sound of sirens blaring growing closer. And suddenly, in the blaze of lights, Sarah found herself faced with the most haunting question of all. Which side was she really on? As the helicopter's blades whirred above, Sarah stood frozen, adrenaline coursing through her veins. Her father, James, knelt on the pavement, pain etched across his face, while her mother, Julia, hovered nearby, an enigma cloaked in shadow. The tension thickened like smoke around them, overwhelming and disorienting. Sarah, her father gasped, his breath ragged. You need to go. This isn't your fight. Not without you, she couldn't tear. Her eyes away from the blood soaking his shirt, the desperation in his gaze. She sensed the walls closing in, the shadows looming as Marcus's men encroached like vultures. Julia stepped forward, her demeanor icy and unyielding. This is bigger than you can fathom. The family business isn't something you just walk away from. What family? Sarah shot back, her heart racing. What have you done? Before Julia could respond, Marcus emerged again, eyes glinting with malice. Such a touching family reunion. But this game is just getting started. Run, Ethan yelled, grappling with the panic surging within him. He pulled Sarah toward the helicopter, where the figure from before shouted again. We can't hold them off much longer. Without thinking, Sarah yanked free from Ethan's grip and took a stand. No, this ends now. You can't keep playing with people's lives. James looked up, sheer pride and sorrow flickering in his eyes. Sarah, please. Stop, she yelled, voice trembling yet fierce. You've both lied to me my entire life. You owe me the truth. In that moment, the world flipped. She offered the fleeting chance of hope, the flicker of light that could break through this darkness. A chance to confront their demons together. Marcus burst forward, a sneer plastered on his face, reveling in the chaos. Just then, a shot rang out, thundering through the night air. Everything froze. The bullet struck so close, she felt the wind of its passing. Get down, Jace roared, diving between Sarah and the threat, a protector in the storm. Julia lifted her gaze, unwavering. You think you can end this here? You think you can escape? I'm done running, Sarah shouted back, heart pounding heavy in her chest. You will not dictate my life. Suddenly, the helicopter's spotlight caught a figure. Her eyes grew wide. It was Fiona, fierce and unwavering, marching between them and Marcus's men. Get inside, she shouted, fists clenched, ready to fight. Even if you avow that truth, Marcus smiled, sinister, it won't protect you from the repercussions. Your parents, your blood, none are without sin. Shut up, Sarah screamed, hate twisted in her gut. Enough! In a heartbeat, Julia stepped forward, sobering the moment. You are stronger than this, Sarah. Together, we can take down Marcus, expose the lies that have haunted our family. As the shadows flickered with every ounce of energy, Sarah felt clarity, brutal and fierce. They were all tangled in a game too large for any one person to play alone. This isn't just about you. It's about choosing family, fighting for what's right. In that charged moment, the choice was made. Let's end this, she declared, gripping Jace's hand, intertwining their destinies. Fiona dashed forward, grabbing weapons from the helicopter. We've got your back. We fight together or we fall apart. With newfound strength surging, Sarah locked eyes with her father and mother, sensing a fragile connection being rebuilt through blood and pain. Whatever happens, we're a family. Let's finish it. And just like that, they surged forward, the night alive with noise, the helicopter whirring, flames crackling, and the sound of desperation giving way to rebellion. As they fought back against the darkness, she understood. They would either rise together or fall in ruins. The last blast echoed, chaos swirling into clarity. She faced Marcus, defiance burning bright. This is for every family you've broken. With one final push, they triumphed, a wave of strength racing through their united front. As the dust settled, Sarah stood amidst the aftermath, pulse racing with victory, anger merging into relief. In that moment, she felt love for the first time in years amid the wreckage. They had faced the storm and carved a path toward the light. Sarah, her father murmured, slowly rising, you've made us proud. No matter what, we start over, she whispered, tears brimming. For the first time, it all felt possible, hope woven through the agony of the past. As the dust finally settled, she realized they would be okay, their family beginning anew in the world's chaotic aftermath. But now, the urgency surged again, the weight of her truth crashing down. We have to get out of here. And her heart echoed the unsaid question, where would they go from here? Don't miss a moment of this journey. You have to subscribe right now to the channel, so you don't miss any of the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button right now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your thoughts and theories about this ending. Instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see how this ends. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share this.